Okay, warning to everyone who thought Everything is Awesome was annoyingly catchy 5 years ago. The Lego Movie 2 has a new song that is actually far more beguiling. Seriously, this song is going to get stuck inside your head. And that's not a description I wrote, no, that is literally the chorus to the song. Chris Pratt, Elizabeth Banks, Will Arnett, Tiffany Haddish, Stephanie Beatrice, Charlie Day, Allison Brie, Channing Tatum, and Jonah Hill are directed by Mike Mitchell, who gave us films like Trolls, SpongeBob Sponge Out of Water, Shipwrecked, Shrek 4, Sky High, and Douche Bigelow Male Gigolo.
Shove it up your
Kind of an odd departure in genre there. In the Lego Movie 2, the second part, a sequel to a solely product-based adventure comedy where every character is an anthropomorphic Lego figurine. The first one focused on an average sanguine construction worker named Emmett, played by Chris Pratt, who was declared as the chosen one to save their fantasy world from an evil, power-hungry autocrat. And alongside our protagonist was a fellowship of quirky individuals to help with Emmett's journey, including a tough-as-nails love interest named Wildstyle, a bipolar kitten named Unikitty with unicorn horns, and my personal favorite, the most narcissistic version of Batman we have ever seen. Now its sequel picks up literally where its predecessor left off and finds our characters enduring post-apocalyptic conditions within their town of Bricksburg, or as it's now called, Apocalypseburg, where the majority of its population have become more habituated to gloomy transitions. The only person who remains spirited and optimistic, of course, is our cheery protagonist.
I brought you coffee!
Coffee. The bitter liquid that provides the only semblance of pleasure left in these dark times.
Oh my goshness, did I interrupt you brooding just now?
Then the story's inciting incident kicks in, where the leader of the alien force that turned their beloved town into a Mad Max-like wasteland has kidnapped several of Emmett's friends in order for them to attend a wedding in the Star system, where their queen, voiced by Tiffany Haddish, intends to marry the fiercest leader of their town. This causes our kind-hearted protagonist to transform his beautiful home into a spaceship and begin a solo rescue mission to retrieve his oddball group of friends. Now, the first two-thirds of the Lego Movie back in 2014 set up a simple yet charming story that allegorized the importance of finding one's significance. However, to the surprise of most audiences, its third act took a daring turn and delivered a far more complex outcome of its message. This is what transformed the movie from being an average kids film to both an exceptional and timeless family-friendly adventure. So, needless to say, the second one, or second part if you will, had some big standards to achieve in order to justify its existence as a worthy continuation. And given the fact that its foundation is primarily incorporated by product placement, that wasn't going to be an easy task. The majority of the voice cast have returned and they reprised their roles perfectly, especially Will Arnett, man, who I think was born to play this version of Batman. And I still stand by my comment that this version is better than that version from Kevin Conroy. And the new addition of main characters are a welcoming presence as well, which include a shape-shifting ruler called Quinn Whatever Wanabe. She is hilariously played by the very talented Tiffany Haddish, and Stephanie Beatrice, of Brooklyn Nine-Nine fame, does a fine job, even though the majority of her performance is audibly skewed as an intergalactic officer named General Sweet Mayhem. Boy, that name doesn't give off any red flags. Now, within the first 20 minutes of Lego Movie 2, the story did feel like it was leading the franchise into the obnoxious realm of sequelitis. I myself originally felt there was no reason to continue what was nearly perfect 5 years ago, and give or take the first quarter of this film, it was proving my standpoint to be quite legitimate. But as the film progressed, the humor became more and more cleverly meta, and the narrative gradually revealed itself as a clever and touching parable that's really on par with its predecessor. And the more and more I thought about it, I found my shift in opinion was actually quite analogous with the film's overall message. I can't really go into detail without really spoiling anything, but I will say if you do find your standpoint with the film's quality to positively change by its end, I believe you'll be pleasantly surprised with just how it collates with the narrative's entirety. As far as flaws are concerned, there's really not much to elaborate in terms of technical aesthetics or narrative elements when focusing on this film as a standalone installment. I mean, I guess the humor can be a little too meta at times, and that would honestly sum it up. But that kind of perspective is nearly impossible when it's not only a sequel to a popular franchise, but your predecessor is also something as preeminent and noteworthy like the Lego Movie. So yeah, it kind of comes with the territory that some juxtaposition in quality will occur. Now, when I saw the first one, I remember thinking it was aesthetically pleasing, consistently funny, and was pleasantly flabbergasted by its third act. But here I found it more aesthetically pleasing, but intermittently funny, and was pleasantly entertained with its final act rather than feeling astonished. That's not to say the last third of this movie was subpar by any means. I actually felt the message they tackled here was more complex and considerably more mature than the lesson from the original. But with that being said, it did execute the ending in a very similar way that it sort of lacked the impact of what its predecessor did so well. But hey, does that mean the Lego Movie 2 is both inferior and unnecessary to exist? Not at all. In this age of cinema where sequels, remakes, and reboots are abundant and most possess very little in terms of genuine quality, the second part, God, that's a horrible title, is one of those rare installments that places actual effort in achieving a high standard set by its predecessor. Yes, it may not be as efficacious as the original, but its sincere endeavor is what makes the film worthy of being a solid continuation rather than being an unnecessary one. On the scale of quality with these cinematic Lego films, because this sequel marks as their fourth installment, I would say this one ranks around number 3 for me. Now, I know how bad that looks, but hear me out. My list starts with the Lego Batman movie at number 1. I don't care what anyone says, that movie is both the funniest and most superior of these films. Then the first Lego movie, then Lego Movie 2, then Lego Ninjago that no one ever speaks of. Yeah, these two so close together is purely by default, so don't think this movie is a serious downgrade from the other two. It's like right there where these movies began to lose credibility. So, the Lego Movie 2, an enjoyable continuation that doesn't quite capture the impact of its predecessor, but it's still thoroughly enjoyable with both its ravishing animation and a solid amount of meta humor. And for my recommendation, I say it earns a well-deserved 4 out of 5 stars, and in my book, that is most definitely worth both your time and money as a matinee. Okay everyone, send me your thoughts on the film. Do you agree or disagree? Place it in the comment section below. And if you like this video, then click right here for more cinematic awesomeness.